Let's discuss another source of Islamic law, which is Qiyas. Qiyas is also known as analogical reasoning. So Qiyas is, according to the Sunni school of thought, it's the fourth source of Islamic law. And Qiyas is done on a certain issue while following the principles of Qur'an and the Sunnah by a scholar who is well versed in Islamic sciences. So you should know that Qiyas can only be practiced by an Islamic scholar who is well versed in the teachings of Quran and the Sunnah, and it's the fourth source of law, plus it's also known as the secondary source of law. Now let's move on to the definition. First of all, I'll appreciate if you learn the definition as it is, but still if you cannot learn it, so I'm going to, after telling you the definition, I'm going to explain it in my own words as well. So if you think you can write it correctly in your own words, so then it's up to you. You can write it in your own words as well. So let's see the definition first. According to the scholars, the definition of Qiyas is to transcribe an original ruling, asl, that is mentioned in the Quran or Hadith into a new subsidiary ruling, far, based on an effective linking cause, illah, which connects the original and a new subsidiary ruling to define a new law, hukam. So now let's understand it. What does it say? Okay? So according to the scholars, Qiyas is basically to convert an original ruling. Now original ruling is known as asl. You should be knowing these terminologies. These are the four components of Qiyas: asl, far, illah and hukam. So Qiyas is basically converting an original ruling from the Quran and the Sunnah into a new subsidiary ruling, far. So asl and far, asl is the original ruling of the Quran, far is the problem that arose. Okay? Based on an effective linking. Now asl and far are connected with each other, which is known as illah, and then based on the illah a new order comes, which is known as hukam. So this is how you are going to be defining Qiyas. First of all, you should tell that it can only be practiced by the scholars who are well versed in Quran and Sunnah, and who also knows about the decisions made in ijma. And then afterwards you can give the definition, write about the four components of Qiyas, and then we are going to see what the Prophet says about the Qiyas. So Mu'adh bin Jabal example is mentioned here, that he was sent as the governor of Yemen, and the Prophet ﷺ asked him, how would you reach a judgment when a question arises? Mu'adh told him that first he would try to derive a ruling from the Quran, and if the Quran was silent on a certain issue, then he would judge from the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet. However, if the Sunnah was also silent on that particular issue, he would then do ijtihad, that is, use his thorough reasoning to derive a certain ruling. So here you need to understand that Mu'adh bin Jabal's conversation with the Prophet is actually depicting the use of Qiyas, which the Prophet allowed. He's saying that I will make a decision based on Quran. If Quran is silent, then I will move on to the Sunnah. And then if Sunnah is also not having a decision to the problem, so then I will use my personal judgment. And he used the word ijtihad. So you should know what is the meaning of the word ijtihad. It's making a decision by personal effort. So only those scholars can make that personal effort if they are well versed in the Quran and the Hadith. Now here I have also placed some conditions of Qiyas, who are the people and under which conditions Qiyas can be practiced. So it should be employed when there is no clear statement in the Quran and the Sunnah for the arising question. Koi problem aaya hai, there is some ambiguity, some issue, and the solution for that ambiguity is not mentioned in Quran and the Sunnah, so only then Qiyas can be practiced. Next, the scholar must be an expert who is well versed in all the Islamic sciences. So the scholar must be having an ample knowledge about Quran, Hadith and Ijma. And illah, which is the linking cause, as we have seen earlier as well, it should be authentic and acknowledged by this Sharia. So जो भी connection बनता है असल और फार में, which is illah, that should be authentic. Unless and until we do the examples, carried out by the Prophet, carried out by the companions of the Prophet, you will not understand the four components of Qiyas. But once you will understand and see the examples, and you will start putting in, just like a formula, asal, far, illah and hukam, I always tell my students that try to put these components just like a formula into Quranic ayat and hadith, and then you will be able to easily deduce the ruling. There is a Quranic reference as well for Qiyas, which says, then take admonition, O you, with insight. It also says, there are signs for those who understand. So as the legal thinking of Islam, all four sources are incomplete if they are not being backed up with the references. So you are required to be mentioning the references. So in the next video, we will be moving on to the examples.